Hello and welcome to the podcast. I'm Karen Weaver. I've had my eye on Washington State University for quite some time, not just because both they and Oregon State were left behind in the Pac-12 near implosion of the 108-year-old conference, but also acquired millions of dollars and the resources in this transition to a new era of Pac-12 conference of the Pac-12 networks, which I don't think enough people talk about. So I think that's important for us to discuss. Arguably, we've never seen anything like this before. To tell us more about her energy and focus on making change now to elevate Washington State's athletics program, I'm joined by Dr. Elizabeth Betsy Cantwell. Dr. Cantwell became Washington University's 12th president and the first woman in the role, arriving on campus in April 2025. A veteran research administrator who previously led Utah State, who is now coming into the Pac-12, she has made athletics a central priority, helping steel the rebuilt Pac-12 and pushing to close WSU's roughly $20 million annual revenue gap through expanding NIL fundraising, new revenue streams, and a stated goal of football contention within 4 years. She has also been on speed dial with another Cantwell you may have heard about, Senator Maria Cantwell of Washington State. Senators Cantwell and Ted Cruz were the initial sponsors of the Protect College Sports Act, which is currently in a holding phase while the Senate is in its summer recess. Betsy, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm pleased to be here, Karen.
So let's start. You've only been on campus, a year and a half.
Yes.
What was it like kind of walking into this new role from a different perspective, those kinds of things?
Pretty chaotic, Karen, and I think that's true for any of us that are transitioning into any presidency role anywhere right now. Higher ed is at the effect of so many vectors of change.
Yeah.
And if you are at an institution that has, high caliber athletics, even more so. It's a lot of change. We could call it lots of things, but it's a lot of change at once. I personally view the athletics vector, which is why I'm really happy to be on this podcast, as the leading edge of everything that's following along demographic shifts, political considerations, all of the questioning of higher ed costs, all of that is a little bit behind athletics, which is leading in so many ways the types of challenges we have to, I won't say overcome, we actually have to just surf this wave. It's pretty clear that nation and college athletics are in a kind of long-term shift. My bias is that Washington State and land grants in general need to be part of choosing our future and not just wait for it to happen.
Yes.
Which is one reason I was really attracted to Washington State is it's really clear that Washington State and Oregon State said, oh, that sucked. That wasn't a very nice experience. However, we are going to choose to create the next future for ourselves.
Wow.
And we clearly have done so.
Boy, that is such a strong statement, and I have not heard any other president phrase it quite that way. We all seem to be in a reactive mode to what's going on around all the inputs in higher education, legislation. But what you're doing is leading with anticipatory leadership.
Yes.
So talk a little bit more about that.
Well, let me just say, the beginnings of my career were actually in national security.
Okay.
And one of the things we do in national security is kind of scenario-based planning, right? Because sometimes you just don't know what's going to happen, but you feel like you've got to keep the nation ready for lots of things. I think we're all in that mode now, where scenario-based planning isn't going to give you the answer. Too much is changing too fast, but it enables a certain type of thinking. And why is that important in higher education right now? Probably for other types of public service missions in the US anyway, but is that for 70 years since kind of the Vannevar Bush days when the original research compact was created for these large scale public institutions, we have had a pretty level playing field, pretty steady approach to our mission. and our financial model, and that started to change during the financial crisis of 2008 to 2010. It was the first time most of us, at least in the public service sector, had way more than half of our funding coming from the states that we served.
Yes.
Typically, if you look on average, I would say, and I haven't looked probably, broadly for 3 or 4 years, but we're all well below 20%, and many are below 10% of their support coming from the
Right.
state. Which is one of the reasons now the tuition mandate changed a lot, and then a lot of uh, rocking the boat on other sources of revenue. So that was really, in my mind, the start of what do we do, and how do we do it. I'm a big believer. This is my one chance to say this, I think, Karen, but I'm a big believer in the land grant mission, because it was created at a very similar time when the nation was in a lot of shift and flux, the likes of which
Right.
we have not seen
Right.
for very long time, probably since World War II. And there was new technology coming to bear that needed to be democratized pretty quickly for the nation,
Right.
or we're going to create a bunch of, I will call them credibly, maybe robber barons or land barons who who controlled that we were not the nation we envisioned at the time. I think we're in both of those situations right
Wow.
now. We recall that that's our mission. So it would be fun with you to weave together why athletics, why now, and what's going on.
Absolutely. So my head's spinning. So I want to ask you about what impact the external forces that
Yeah.
are on college athletics right now have also had, and how different the space looks than just 10 years ago.
So I'll start with where I was, which is
Yes.
kind of land grant mission, where we're at
Right.
as a nation. So what college athletics has done for us for such a long time, and it's why the regional competitions to me were canonical in terms of value, is they have allowed us to repeatedly see what it means to come together, no matter what your political affiliation is, no matter what your job is, no matter what your ethnic and racial makeup is,
Hmm.
around this kind of common fun thing, common exciting thing that was good for everybody. Um, Pro sports lost that. Yeah, I mean, you're probably more of an expert than I am, but some time ago, when it really became purely a financial venture.
Yeah,
And
I
yes,
agree.
we love to watch our
Yes.
whatever our team is, but in college athletics, we were able to maintain this idea of regional competition, and then regions competing against regions, and it gave us a sense of our nation, really, in a way that, as time's gone on, a lot of those other things that gave us that sense of who we are together have fallen off a cliff. And so, where are we with college athletics now? I mean, the same financial measures and perspectives have been creeping in, and as a let's say, the president of an institution that's been in the middle of that. Some of those were, it was time to pay the piper when it comes to paying student athletes something for the amount of revenue that they're generating for
Right.
companies.
Right.
And they're not even generating revenue necessarily for universities, but boy, are they generating media revenue. And they absolutely deserve a piece of that pie, one way or the
Yeah.
other.
Yeah.
Um, but then the other aspects of the financial equation around college athletics became kind of desegregated from the overall picture of the university,
Hmm.
and had their own life associated with the magnitude of media revenue vice any of the other costs or revenues associated with college athletics,
Yes.
which I think has led us down a path to where we are today. And so many people that I talk to, you mentioned Senator Cantwell, but so many people on both sides of the aisle and across the nation know that the value of college athletics is, in fact, a national value of providing us all with something, all of us, with something that we love and we loved and we can participate in and we can build, family togetherness around and neighborhood togetherness, things that are harder to come by these days.
100%.
And we really don't want to lose that.
Yeah, that's for sure. Um, so the Pac-12 was at one point considered part of the Power Five, and we've had that transition to the Power Four. And there's always some stigma attached. Which side of the equation are you on?
Yeah.
But part of this has been driven by the media revenues that you just talked about, and the wholesale change in the technology behind the media structures, the media company, and the wider distribution of platforms to make money off of. So
Yes.
as you, and we'll talk a little bit more about this later, but as you think about the future revenues of the Pac-12, because you mentioned that you have access to all the resources of the Pac-12 network to grow and
Yes.
enhance and that type of thing. Anticipatory leadership tells you that you can do what with that?
So anticipatory leadership tells me that the disruption in media is not done.
Yeah.
And the way that that comes back to us could fall a number of different ways. I'm particularly entranced right now within the Pac-12 with our capacity to use Pac-12 enterprises, which is really a technology
Yes.
capability that we had built in right at the end of the old Pac days, to do an enormous amount for our members as well as pay to play for others. And we have really a bridging capability that many other conferences don't have.
Hmm.
What does that bridge mean to me as a president in an anticipatory sense? That means I can imagine, what I cannot imagine is that the current strong power base or bases of companies in media right now stays the same for very long.
Right. Right.
So that technology capacity in the Pac-12 to me is part of how we all are the member teams bridge ourselves from the old to the whatever's coming.
Yeah.
And in a sense, we have a pilot facility with which we can learn how to do that
Yeah.
faster than others learn how to do that.
Oh, there's no question about that. I mean, I see here these schools that are building out $25 million on-campus studios, but most of them are connected to ESPN and then takes that signal.
Precisely.
But you guys have everything in house so that you can choose the distribution model, the distribution rate, all those kinds of things.
Correct. Now we're still certainly all of us are locked into the media rights
Right.
deals as they still look pretty well, they still actually look somewhat traditional. They're building out, so now we have maybe 4 channels instead of one
Okay.
10 years ago. But uh, I am not a media specialist whatsoever, but I know disruption when I see it.
Yeah.
And our perspective as a university, and I think this is true for the conference as well, is again to create the future that we want, not wait for things to happen to us. And boy, if you're at Washington State or Oregon State, you have been burned by just waiting
Oh, yeah.
for the somehow the right thing to happen. That is
Oh,
not
yeah.
where you're at anymore. Um, so
For sure.
we can in the pack. I think we can credibly kind of own a perspective that we are a new conference. We are
Hmm.
not a rebuilt anything. And we are really an entrepreneurial conference. We demonstrate what it means to be actually to build our brand around being entrepreneurial and future ready. And I think that honestly is why many of the universities that came to us did so.
That
That's
makes
attractive.
that makes total sense. And what I hear, sports writers and other people who kind of only know what today looks like, they're constantly measuring you up to what the Big Ten and the SEC stands for and what they've done. And your job is to climb the ladder to look like them.
Yes.
You're saying, no, we can go on a different path and achieve a new result that could be even better for us.
And I do believe one way or another, schools and conferences are going to do that. if I was the SEC, if I was the Big Ten, I'd be, um, trying to cement as much of that revenue as I could, but it never just lasts forever.
Yeah.
Change is coming for all of us. And again, I'll go back to part of the agreement we have across the Pac-12 is that we do just really believe in remaining grounded in regional rivalries to preserve the value, what we believe the enduring value of college athletics should
Right.
be across the whole country.
Right. You very much have similarly situated schools, it seems like, in
Yeah,
terms of geography, but also in terms of mission and that type of thing. And that's kind of rare in this day and age. Everybody's just sort of looking for another person, another school. You guys have managed to cobble together more like-minded schools than I think most people realize.
I agree with you. I think, therefore, the competition in the Pac-12 is going to be really, really
Yeah.
interesting and really cool. And we are all compete and win minded
Yeah.
schools. Um, yeah, it's going to be I mean, I'm very excited for the start of this season.
I remember when you came on board in 2025, I saw some of your early press conferences and even just your chats with alumni group. They were on your YouTube channel
Yeah,
or
yeah,
whatever. And your passion for explaining to your group, wherever you were from, was like, now is the time. We have a small window
you do.
to get this done in. We can't be sitting around waiting and debating and that type of thing. This is what we have to do now, and this is why we have to do it now. Betsy, I have never seen a president articulate it as strongly as you have.
Well, I was hired, and you know this, Karen, but I was hired with this conversation front and center.
Yes.
Um, what can do that many others can't is we can prove the link between our athletics program and our enrollment.
Okay.
Because when the Pac-12 blew up, our enrollment dropped precipitously.
Okay.
And therefore, I can take this future casting approach and real data from the past
Mm-hmm.
and say things are going to, the pickup sticks are going to go up in the air
Yep.
sometime 3 to 5 years from now. In that time frame, we have to position ourselves for what comes next. And my belief is that the best positioning for us is to be as fast and as flexible and as financially sound as possible. So we have to be really smart. So all those things, which particularly when I'm speaking to donors and alumni, is so we have a window of about 3 years to make that. So
That's what I've heard you say.
yeah,
Yes.
in that time, we have dropped our overall athletics revenue from the old Pac-12 days to the new Pac-12 days. So that's a drop in annual
Yeah.
revenue. And figure out how to stay smart. And I think I've probably said this in many of my YouTube, but I'm an engineer, so I literally use AI to do predictive modeling of financial scenarios that could
Okay.
happen in the future. Now, is that tell me anything real? No, but it helps me think about the
Mm-hmm.
possibility. I
Mm-hmm.
also look at who are all the new players with money in college athletics right now. Where are they coming from, and why are they placing bets on college athletics?
Interesting. Yeah.
And what is their background? How many of them come from things like how many of them cut their teeth in the origins of online betting platforms, as an example, and
Yeah.
learn to place those kinds of bets for revenue streams and things like that. We've just got to be asking ourselves all of those kinds of things so that when there are repeated attempts to undermine the value of college athletics to us as a nation, we can counter that credibly. And to my own people, it is
Mhm.
we've got 3 years. It's time to we got to play really big ball right now. We've got to be in the game and not standing around waiting for someone to tell us what to do or for someone to decide something's going to come next. We have to create that.
Or look to Congress to rescue us.
Well, Congress, so let's talk about that for a minute.
Yeah.
I think the Protect College Sports Act is super important.
Yeah.
I, um, is it fully going to rescue anything? No. What it does is it first of all it creates guardrails that say we believe college sports is important to the nation, and that's why federal legislation is important.
Huh?
It slows down some of the more precipitously moving financial aspects of it that have damaged, in my opinion, damaged young men, particularly in football and not just because you get more money does not mean your life will be better.
Yeah.
When you're playing college football as a college student does not mean your life will be better. I urge us all to think about really what is most protective of our student athletes writ large. But then it gives us a little bit more time to think about and understand what's happening in the media world, what's changing there.
Yep.
How do we control our own fate a little bit more instead of just the one with the most money wins? Sometimes that's useful, but I don't believe that's useful in college athletics.
Yeah. It
Where
certainly
we're going right now.
it shouldn't be if you want to have some sort of competitive equity landscape.
Yeah.
Everybody has to some ways rise so that they can have that chance to compete equitably.
Well, even I mean, maybe we're saying the same thing, but I
Yeah.
look at and I know we've kind of touched on this in the past, but I think Western universities in particular and the West in general are being left out of the equation right now, not
Yeah.
because we don't have money, but our communities are more widespread. We are a less dense part of the country,
Yeah.
and what's happening is our student athletes uh, are not we will lose opportunity for young men and young women who want to be student athletes coming up through the systems on the West Coast. They either have to be so top of the litter that they go east, or the probability that they're going to get from where they are to pro sports drops. And
Yeah.
I think the West is greatly disadvantaged. I've been really sort of on the soapbox about this, greatly disadvantaged in at least the way things are going. And I don't think that's right just generally for our people. I
Yeah.
certainly don't think it's right for national competitiveness, and I don't think it's right for the individuals, the many incredible athletes who grow up out here in the
Yeah.
West. They just aren't going to have the same number of opportunities.
For sure, because you've got to have the money and the resources to be able to support
Yeah,
them. And I think a lot about how many Olympic athletes have come from the western part of the United States. So we don't want to lose that either. It can't just be about football.
we love our rowing teams.
Yes.
Um, yes.
So you've brought up so many interesting things. Let me go back to your AI, and it sounds like you're using AI as a thought partner.
I am, or just as a everybody reads about it, right? So it's something we can use, and everyone knows it's driving change.
That's right. But it also allows you to propose things that you might get an answer back. You're like, wow, I never thought about that.
Yeah.
So how might that apply to this situation? In your thought partnering, can you think of an example of a question you've asked where you've gotten a surprise, like I never thought of that kind of answer back?
Trying to think again, like I said, so I use AI a lot. Well, when there are financial challenges, either on the university side or athletics, I use AI to build kind of financial um, sort of future casting type of
Okay.
models because I'm really just looking for where are the real danger zones where there
Yeah.
will not be a cliff and we will lose the capacity to maneuver in the future. Um, um, there are some things that AI has pointed me to because I'll also ask questions like, what entities and sectors are driving the rush of private equity to college athletics right now?
Good question.
I got two things out of that kind of discussion with, I use Claude and ChatGPT
Hmm.
differently, but I use them both so I'm not in the same bubble, right?
That's
The
right.
same bubble. Um, Two things are really interesting. Uh, that pointed me to, and it's been in the news a lot lately, but but this was just before we saw it in the news, the investments of private equity in K-12 sports.
Yes. It's
So,
huge.
and I'm a scholar, so I'm going to go, okay, why do they think that's, they're looking for investments no one else has made that are going to bring the return that's
Right.
required for the type of people that give them their money to invest. And that's all. I don't question that at all. I'm just, why do they think that's going to bring, these have to be really high rates of return.
That's right.
And then, so then the question is, all right, we're starting to see private equity in college athletics
Hmm.
in a lot of really interesting ways. It's not necessarily, it's certainly not donations to universities, but we're seeing university facilities get semi or completely privatized
Hmm.
and managed separately from the teams and the athletes. Um, what is it about that? So I might use AI to just try and help me think, what is it about that that is that capacity for revenue that is driving private equity, and can we accrue some of that capacity to the university?
Yeah.
Can
Yeah.
we get a it, can yes, um can we think differently about how we do what we do so that some of that capacity or all of it, and certainly some portion of it, accrues to us so we can support um, and we can maintain a little bit more control and actually have true student athletes
Yeah. Yeah.
and really take a perspective on the best outcomes for young people that aren't just do they get more money, do they have a better life overall. So that I do use AI to help me think about just, and as you said, I need 5 to 10 different options. So it's
Hmm.
not, this is the end point. It is, what are some different ways of thinking about this?
I love that question. I think so many times we just start with what's the best way to generate money? And we don't ask about all the other scenarios that we value, that we want as part of our mission
Yeah.
to include in the athlete experience, in the campus experience.
Well, in our revenue streams in higher ed are changing, our perspective
Sure.
on revenue streams so fast. I think answering that question with today's business model, a revenue model in particular, isn't necessarily useful. Um,
Right.
what's more useful is to look at how things are changing and um, and asking, is that, could that be real? Is it useful for us? Is it a place where we want to start either thinking, or do we need some thought partners? Do we
Yeah.
want to, do I want to bring that to the Pac-12 as something that we're going to talk about?
Hmm.
Um, some of that stuff's pretty far out there for bringing to an actual conference that has to function right now in today's
Not
world.
yet.
Maybe, yeah, so maybe not yet. But the other thing that AI has really pointed me towards is the number of um, people, former entities, revenue, money streams that are coming into the college athletics picture through some pathway that includes online betting.
Oh, yeah. Oh, boy.
And
Hmm.
I'm not personally, I don't have a judgment about that.
Okay.
But I think it is really interesting. Does that mean that the way revenues were built and changed in when betting could go online is something that people see similarities in college athletics? Because that helps me think about
Interesting.
revenue streams that I might control. I'm not talking about betting, by the
No, no,
way.
no, no, no. But you're
It's,
thinking about all
yeah,
the evolution of that. You're thinking
exactly.
about the Kalshi and the Poly market, the way that it's gone from a simple, slot machine to apps and the opportunities and the way they collect data. You're thinking
Yeah,
about all of that and how
yeah,
it applies to athletics.
absolutely.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Um, So let's talk a little bit about the on the ground work that you've been doing there with your senior leadership team, with your athletic director, with your trustees. What kinds of things have you had to help them understand about this new space?
Oh my goodness. So, and let's talk about my athletics director because he's remarkable. He's pretty young. When I had a search going on for our next athletics director, and for those of your listening um, public who don't know, our former athletics director of the Pac-12 went through the Pac-12 breakup for a little while, and then moved to our worst enemy, UW,
Oh
to be their
no!
athletics director. So
Oh
there's a lot of
no!
passion right now about athletics directors. What I needed, I knew what I needed was someone with a lot of flexibility
Yeah.
and willingness to partner directly with me.
Okay.
So not a talk to the hand, let's keep the president, over there in a box, and
Oh
when we
yeah.
need money, we'll bring her out. Because I had already been involved in and invested in hiring our football coach and in being out there and really beating the drums for donations. Um, so I received an inordinate amount of unsolicited advice. Um,
I'm shocked.
and some of it was pretty sternly delivered. But I picked John Harlow because he did know us. He was here through this breakup, but he also has a lot of experience at other universities of different kinds
Yeah.
in athletics programs, and he understands who we are and where we are right now. And I also knew that he would work his butt off, not just to succeed in a job that he'd always wanted, but really to he gets the moment for WSU is surfing the wave of change, and we will design our future.
Wow.
And so I think John has proven himself beautifully. But that's an example. So we play it back and forth to answer your earlier
Hmm.
question about how do we manage the leadership game.
Yeah.
He's got a different network of people in and around college athletics than I do, and we kind of play it back and forth with regard to co-informing each other about what position to take, what to think about, where to spend. I tell people this, I do, monitor I spend a lot of my time, upwards of 50%, one way or another, on college athletics.
Wow.
I'm going to
Wow.
games, I'm visible to our athletes and our coaches because I want
Hmm.
them to know I am in this game. I believe in you and I believe in what we are doing.
Yeah.
Um, but the number of hours associated with having conversations about the Protect College Sports Act and genuinely engaging to the extent that I can in the national discussion about who we are and where we're going. I mean, the fact that we're having this, I have this kind of conversation a lot because I feel like I need to evangelize the perspective of my institution because we represent canonically a lot of what others are going to go through at some point.
Absolutely. You're at the
And
front edge, of all
it's a
this. Yeah.
very
Yeah.
complicated way that you have to think. My regents, blessedly, maybe most of them were regents for this university when we went through the breakup of the Pac-12, had to become very sophisticated very quickly. It goes beyond just being boosters or even donors. It goes to how, they had to select me because they really did know that that next president, the first 4 or 5 years were going to be all about this and solidifying a standing for
Right.
WSU. Not that it would, hold us for the next 50 years, but that was protective of the value and the brand of the university.
Yeah.
Um, and so we spent a lot of time during my hiring process talking about this. And, what did I had been at two Pac-12, I'd been at
Hmm.
Arizona State and University of Arizona. And maybe unusually for my position, I'd asked to apprentice with the football coach and
Oh,
work
wow.
directly with the athletics director. And because coming out of national security, you don't have athletics.
That's true.
You don't work with athletes. You don't work in that in that world. Um, so I have a pretty uniquely positioned internal team and regents. My donors and all the Cougs out there who are rabid fans are also still hurt by the breakup of the Pac-12.
Hmm.
Right. And when have they ever had to be involved in thinking about the business model of the institution?
Right.
Never.
Right.
And honestly, realistically, if I had my way, would never have to be involved in thinking about that kind of thing. But right now, our we're in a disrupted state. I need them, and we can't go away. Like in a lot of times of disruption, the old goes away and new ones take their place.
Hmm.
Higher ed is not like that. So I need my donors and basically my investors, my alumni, to really be on the bus helping us think about how
Yeah.
we not just manage this disruption, but how we kind of take the reins and build that future.
Yeah. And that means it's so compatible with what I saw in your YouTube addresses, because you were like, we want to inform you so you know right now what the future is going to look like. So many presidents have waited too long to have that conversation
Yeah.
with their faculty, their donors, their alumni, even their staff until the crisis hits. You're saying it's here, it's now, this is why, and what do we need to do next? And you're trying to lead. Do I have that right?
Yes, and I would say again, the lemonade that we've made out of the lemon of the breakup of the Pac-12 is that everybody knows it. They've
Yeah.
seen it and felt it, and carry emotionally that. So we know change is upon us. We know it's painful. We've felt that pain, and we do when presented with it. We know we have a choice. Sort of it's a leader follow choice, but it's really you got to do the work to build the future, or you're just going to be on somebody's coattail somewhere, and you better
So
hope they like you because you don't know exactly how that's going to work out.
in the remaining couple of minutes we have together, I'm dying to ask you about your relationship with Senator Maria Cantwell. I'm betting that the two of you have each other on speed dial. Perhaps
Well,
you even think of each other as sisters. But I mean, you've been engaging a lot with Senator,
I
who
have
I
been.
admire greatly. I'm almost,
But let me be clear. Not
yeah,
only are we not related, and we both did because I mean it was going to be obvious that we had to figure out whether we were related or not.
yeah,
I mean, other than all Cantwells that came into the U.S. at some time came from Ireland, in a particular time period that generally included the potato famine.
okay, got
But
it.
we are not, going back into our U.S. history, we are not related. I appreciate Senator Cantwell's staff inordinately. We have the normal relationship that a university
Yeah,
president has with one of their senators. Um, Around the Protect College Sports Act, do we have each other on speed dial? Yes, we have certainly communicated. I appreciate uh, the willingness of Senator Cantwell to bring me early into the discussion, into the
okay,
national scale discussion. So I am in rooms where I am invited to share WSU's experience and our perspective on where nationally we should be going. Um, and without her, I would not have been, I don't think, invited there.
yeah,
Again, I will just say the national scene is there are way more people out there at high levels everywhere in the conferences, in the universities across the nation who do not want to lose this moment,
yeah,
even though it looks pretty dicey. We'll see. Um, the one thing I'll say about Protect College Sports Act is it's accelerated a certain type of conversation about the changes that are.
okay,
And so I've said this to some. My concern is that my original 3 to 4 year time frame has now shrunk because
okay,
um, people want to take action sooner. Whether it's passing this act, I really hope it is. I think it's a do no harm act. It does not address certain very important issues, but it does no harm to the national conversation about it doesn't preclude other outcomes. It just isn't, it's silent on certain things because, boy, to get everything, it's like saying, well, in 6 months, I want you to fix every problem in the nation, put it all into one 2-page act, and then we'll be,
Exactly.
it's just not going to happen. What this does
Yeah.
do, there's so much support. There's so much support, and it makes me feel good because it's support for what I believe in, which is the national value of college athletics.
Yeah, I had a conversation with Gordon Gee
Yeah,
about a month ago, and he's been working so hard on this act too. And he
yeah.
was optimistic. He thinks it's going to work.
I'm ready for as I should be ready for anything, but out there working as hard as I can to convince
Great.
everybody that this is really, really important, and for that the prescience to be willing to be involved in this scale of a bipartisan approach on the part of Senator Cantwell. I am very, very grateful.
Well, this has been a remarkable conversation. I mean, we've covered everything from the implosion of a 108-year-old conference to AI to Congress acting to protect college sports. Betsy, I'm so grateful. This has been an amazing conversation that will really benefit my students and others. So thank you.
Well, I look forward to what their for hearing what their reactions and thoughts are, Karen. That would be
100%.
really
100%.
useful. Yeah,
That
thank you
sounds
for the
great.
opportunity.
You are more than welcome.